Yeah, okay.
All right, recording. Hello, and welcome to the Blockchain Journal Club. I'm Carlos.
And I'm Perry.
How's it going, Perry?
Not bad, you?
Pretty good. Let's see your hair. Okay.
As nice as ever.
You really look like a stallion.
No, we tamed the beast now.
I think next time I'll be wearing a hat. It's getting out of control. I did do a little bit of like going around my ears and a little bit of sideburns.
Yeah, well, yeah.
What's happening on your sides though, right?
My face is starting to hurt actually with all this facial hair.
like an Orthodox Jew.
Also, when I
or
eat,
an Orthodox Christian.
These mustache hairs go in my mouth when I eat as well.
You get some scissors and just trim around the mouth, right?
Yeah.
You gotta get started on that.
It makes you look more manly, to be honest, though.
Yeah, I really wish I could have that kind of beard density, for sure.
It's crazy density, but it's painful.
Enjoy it. Is it painful?
I don't think so.
For sure, it's painful for Vanessa.
Yeah. It's painful for me, so.
Well, I mean, I guess once it's at a certain length, it becomes smooth again. You know, like
not mine. Mine is literally like
sandpaper.
No, seriously. Yeah, wow. It's painful. The diameter of each hair is like a centimeter, you know?
You can count the hairs.
Yeah.
Crazy. Mm-hmm. So how's your quarantine going otherwise?
Not bad.
It's not bad, eh? Not bad. You know, I noticed...
I'm just used to it, I think, now.
I think I've been used to it my whole life, actually. I'm pretty sure I've been quarantining for years. Now that I realize, you know, like... I've been gardening for 2 years now. You know, now all of a sudden everybody on Instagram is growing their own little plants. And I'm posting, you know, my videos of me growing, you know, with my greenhouse and all these things as though I just joined on the wave, you know, not true.
I think you're confusing quarantine with gardening though.
No, not just gardening, baking. So I had, you know, I've been making a lot of crumpets. I've had the equipment for that for a while. It's been in the books that we're going to make crumpets. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's already been a thing.
This sounds like you're just trying to justify that you're not a hipster.
I've been doing board games for a while. You know that, Perry. All right, everybody's doing board games now. Yes. I'm ahead of the hipsters.
I've yet to taste your crumpets though.
Oh, they're delicious. They're really good. They're extremely high in carbs though.
Nice.
Well, one crumpet is 100 calories, so you know. Okay. It's manageable.
Why not just make cookies?
Yeah, Victoria makes those. I'm not a big fan of cookies. Okay, I like a nice hearty crumpet. Going for walks. I've been going for walks my whole life. You know.
You and no one else. You've been the only one.
You go to the park now. It's, you know, full of people just walking for no reason. You didn't see those people before. It was just people with dogs.
There's nothing else to do though.
I've been ahead of the curve for a while.
So basically, you're just a boring person because you're doing all the stuff people do when they're bored.
Yeah, I guess so.
Nice.
Or I'm just very good at being self-sufficient. You know. I'm basically Dwight.
You're not self-sufficient?
I mean, I grow my
you garden,
you know,
onions.
Baking, entertaining yourself at home.
Nice.
You know?
You entertainer.
Really, not much has changed for me.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah, anyway.
Groceries, though.
Yeah, no, I went to the IGA the other day.
Okay.
Yeah. It's fine. You're right, it's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, they make you wash your hands when you go in, and that's it. And there's these arrows on the floor. I don't know if you actually pay attention to them.
No one obeys them, though. People just, it's a free-for-all inside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So today, should we start on today's paper?
Yeah, let's start. Let's go to the brief introduction. Actually, so let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Which I have to do like so.
What a question. Okay. Quick financial question. I'm thinking of shorting tobacco stock. How do you feel about that?
Why tobacco stock?
Well, I think if the virus kind of sticks around for a while, then maybe we'll be people will be like thinking twice about picking up smoking, or like. You know,
but I think smoking is already so unhealthy that if
like people are already down to die. But I don't know if this is much more short term, right? Like if you're in your 40s and you smoke, maybe it brings you up to your 60s, in terms of risk. So maybe it'll make you think twice.
I don't know. There are just so many things already that are killing you by smoking that I don't know if this is going to actually push you to stop smoking. I don't know. Maybe.
It's a thought I had on the weekend. And I think it might, right? I mean, people are already smoking less. So clearly the people that do smoke or were going to smoke are changing their minds.
What about these people in like Asia where they just like smoke from the time they're like 3 years old?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's really what's keeping the companies alive.
Yeah, I think that's really the bottleneck.
And I don't know if they care about their lives. They might be okay with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Or they'll be like, well, I'll die of something else earlier. Probably that's the logic. Yeah, I don't know. I thought about buying the S&P 500 shorts, and I like hesitated. I was about to pull the trigger, and I didn't.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like the big companies are going to pull through. So that's why the 500 might not be the best thing to short, right?
Maybe, yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, just my little Warren Buffett idea.
Yeah, Mr. Buffett.
Hey, Shopify went up like a crazy amount. Shopify stock.
I didn't know that. No.
It went up like, I don't know. I'm going to say a crazy number, but it was like 300%. Turns out I had some Shopify stock.
Nice.
Yeah.
You are Mr. Buffett.
I am. Except Buffett probably didn't have Shopify stock.
What does Shopify do? I don't even know. Maybe this is off topic.
Oh, no. It actually is, because the reason I bought Shopify stock was because, basically they're behind all the e-commerce websites. So if you have something you're trying to sell, you basically go on Shopify and they set up all the like payments and all the, so they make your business be able to sell online, basically.
So it's like they give you like plugins or something for your website.
Yeah. It's like Wix, but for selling,
Okay.
So it's like they do your inventory. So they have all these like tools for that. And the reason I bought it is because they they make you be able to accept crypto.
Nice.
Obviously through these weird
third parties.
Yeah, and just selling right away and all this stuff. But that was like, oh, okay, that pushed me to the over the edge, over the fence.
So just buy more of that then.
Have a look at Shopify. Yeah, I mean, Shopify, Netflix. People are going to be digitalizing.
Yeah,
that's it. Natural selection. Okay. Anyway, that's a nice website. It's a very nice website.
I think I've seen it before. It's actually our website. So just to
Ozeki.io.
Yeah, Ozeki.io. Let's go to the education tab. Let's click on this quantum information seminar presentation.
That's the one that won the prize?
This is the award-winning presentation.
Nice.
And let's just scroll down to what's important for this paper.
Wait, should we say what the paper is that we're going to talk about today?
Yeah. So the paper is called The Bitcoin Brain Drain, Examining the Use and Abuse of Bitcoin Brain Wallets.
Mm-hmm.
So let me go back to my presentation. So basically this paper is about, so as people may know or may not know, in order to use Bitcoin, you have to have, Bitcoin relies on public key cryptography. So everyone on the network is represented by some public key. But to access your funds, you have to have access to the private key, which is related to this public key in some way. And this paper is about how people have been using public or private keys that are generated from some known string or some password that people like to derive from the English language, say, and how this might be a very insecure thing to do. So before getting into the paper, I'm just going to describe basically how public key cryptography works in a very abstract way. And then we'll get to these passwords or these brain wallets. Oops. Okay, so so in Bitcoin, the main thing going on, maybe I'll go presentation mode. Is that a thing? Should I go presentation mode? Fit to page.
It's a PDF, no?
Yeah,
no
but I can. Sorry, I meant fit to page, but I fit it to page. I think it's fine. I think it's better now. So the point is, like any network where messages have to be sent. So in Bitcoin, the message being sent across the network is our transactions. So we have some message M, which is a transaction for Bitcoin. And basically, we want to be able to prove that Alice, or the person sending the message, actually sent the message to Bob, right? So a message is sent from Alice, or Bob receives a message. he has to be able to prove that Alice somehow sent that message.
Wait, Bob has to prove that Alice sent the message, or like verify, I guess.
Verify, yeah. Be able to
Yeah.
prove to other people.
Yeah.
The network has to be able to check that Alice sent that message to Bob. Or in
Mhm.
this case, a transaction to Bob, money to
Mhm.
Bob. Let's go to the next slide. So basically the way this thing works is through some group theory, if you want, but the abstract way this works is there's a public and private key that everyone on the network has, and these keys are related to each other. And every person on the network knows their own private key and knows, or the private key should be kept private, it's a secret key, and the public key is known by everyone on the network. So if we look at these pictures, for those of you who can see the pictures, Alice has knowledge of her own private key and her own public key, and Bob or Alice also knows Bob's public key, but knows nothing about Bob's private key.
Mm-hmm.
So when Alice wants to send a message to Bob, what she does is she sends the message, and she sends something called a signature. And what the signature is, it's just the output of some function that I call sig here, which takes an input, Alice's private key, and the message. Okay, so Alice sends a message plus something called a signature, which is derived from her own private key and the message. And then
and I guess, sorry, the message contains Bob's public key in this case, right? It's a message authorizing Bob
so in
to
this case,
send, yeah.
So this is a general thing, but in this case, say in Bitcoin, it would be, let's say the message could be, I, Alice, send Bob 5 Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
Or I, Alice, who has this public key, send Bob, who has this public key, 5 Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Bob to prove to the network, or for the network to be able to check that actually Alice sent Bob those 5 Bitcoin, there exists some verification function, which I call check here, that takes as an input the signature, the message, and only Alice's public key. And if Alice's public key corresponds to the private key that signed the message, this check function outputs true, and if not, it outputs false. And if this check function outputs true, then you know that Alice is the one that has possession of this private key, right? Mm-hmm. And the point here is if anyone else had possession of Alice's private key, they can sign these messages and basically steal Alice's money, right? Because they can just sign away all her money.
They would look like Alice signed these transactions, right?
In fact, Alice would be signing the transactions. Yeah. It just wouldn't be the human Alice that would want to sign the transactions.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why it's very important to keep your private keys secret.
Because there's no, at least in the Bitcoin network, there's no notion of a real person's identity. It's just something is valid as long as this check is valid, right? So yeah, no one's saying, oh, okay, sorry, someone guessed your private key, so here's your money back, Alice. It's not like, no, this is final, and that's the way it works.
Yeah, so basically the public key is your identity on the network, and your private key is, if you want, it's access to your wallet, right? So it's like if you own the private key, you own the person's wallet. Mm-hmm. You are that person in terms of how you can sign things away. Mm-hmm. Right. So in general, you want to pick the most secure private key, which turns out to just be a huge random number.
And so the private key, there's a direct mapping from the private key to the public key, right? Like once you've picked your private key, you derive your public.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these things are related, but what you want to do to make the private key as unguessable as possible is just pick some huge random number. Mm-hmm. Right, and then derive your public key from that private key. Mm-hmm. Right, in that case, and if you did that, then it would be very difficult to guess that private key. And now if we go back to the paper, this paper is about people that actually derive their private keys from some password or from some word that they know in their mind. Right, so it's like instead of picking some huge random number, I'm going to pick the word Carlos or Perry and then derive a private key from that word.
For the purpose of making it easier to use, I guess, no?
Well, I guess originally the purpose or the thought was that if you did this, then if someone tried to hack you, imagine I kept this huge random number on my computer,
Mm-hmm.
and someone hacked my computer. Well, they would get access to my Bitcoin wallet.
Oh yeah, so you never have to physically store it, I guess.
Exactly. If you just remember the password or
Yeah.
the brain, if you just remember the brain wallet,
Mhm.
then you could just remember the password, and then every time you wanted to send some money, you can input your password without ever
Mhm.
having to have actually your private key online or connected to it or on a device that's connected online where people
Mhm.
can hack it.
Yeah.
So I think that was the original idea behind it. But actually, in this paper, so the idea behind it was to actually get things to be more secure. But it
I
turns
thought it
out
said in
from
the paper that it was just like it would make it easier to spend. Like you don't have to input a
so I
super
think
complicated key.
so. You can see the paper now, right?
Yeah.
So I think they actually discuss.
See, go up a bit. It says this approach is convenient as the user can spend their Bitcoin simply by typing their password.
Yeah, actually, I don't.
It's the last line of the introduction
I see.
paragraph in the first page.
Yeah, yeah, and then well, if you look at the next sentence, actually,
Which is weird, right? Because I mean, typing the private key is not the only thing that's annoying. You also have to type Bob's public key. That's annoying. Like, might as well just remember the private key. Have it stored somewhere.
That's true, but I think you can look up Bob's public key very easily online. Say.
Yeah, and copy paste it.
Yeah, but
And
here
then,
the very next sentence is because their private keys are not permanently stored on devices, brain wallets cannot be exfiltrated by malware.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Sure. Which is also that patch that Trezor was proposing for their hardware vulnerability, right? Remember we talked about that?
I'm not sure. Is it? I don't know if it's the same thing.
I mean, it's not the same. It's not having a brain wallet, but it's having a password on top of your keys.
I see.
I forget. Maybe we can pull up the tab. But the idea was like, you have your Trezor on its own. If someone hacks it, they can end up reading like the private key right off the chip.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, so maybe the best thing to do is combine these ideas, right? Have a private key that's a random number, but have it encrypted with some password.
Yeah.
Right. So then it's impossible to hack because you'd have to hack the password as well.
Yeah.
If it's on a device, and then even if someone guesses your password, they have to use that password on the device. So they have to hack your password and hack your computer and guess your password. Basically.
Yeah.
So I guess obviously the best thing to do maybe is combine these and encrypt your private key with some password.
Yeah. I'm gonna Google while you continue what that was.
Oh, what the Trezor hack was?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was key passphrase. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, here the point is, okay, so if you're using a system where you can generate a private key from a password or some word in your mind, well, then if anyone guesses the word, they can just rederive the private key and sign away all your money.
Mm-hmm. Can you zoom in a bit on the paper, Barry?
Zoom in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I can try.
That's better. Well, a bit too much there.
A bit too much. Okay.
Like I want to see the I want to see the. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
That's the goat zoom level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, the point of this paper is really what the authors are doing. Basically, if you look here, they're just trying 3 billion different passwords.
300 billion.
300 billion. Excuse me. Yes. And seeing how many private keys they can generate from these passwords that are connected to some public keys on the Bitcoin network.
So, if I understood this correctly, basically, since the Bitcoin ledger is publicly available, you can see all the public keys that are associated with some Bitcoin on the network. And since so
not even associated with Bitcoin, that I've ever been associated with Bitcoin, basically.
Yeah. So
they can have zero balances.
Of course. But I mean, you would want to, they're trying to do two things: measure how much value there is in these brain wallets, and also measure how many brain wallets there are in total. But the point is, since there's a deterministic process from the secret key to the public key, then you can just try a bunch of secret keys offline until one of the, like, go from a secret key to a public key 300 billion times until you see one that matches one that's on the ledger, right?
Yeah, so the ledger gives you a list of public keys or identities that have ever been used on the network.
Yeah.
You take your 300 billion passwords, generate the associated public keys, and compare them to that list of identities that have ever been on the Bitcoin network. And when you hit one, you can check that address's history or that public key's history, and you can check how much money has ever been in that account, or how much Bitcoin has ever been in that account, and you can check how fast it took for the Bitcoin to leave that account or to enter that account.
Yeah, so that's another thing they wanted to estimate, like how quickly they got hacked.
Yeah, which is a bit weird to me because it's not necessarily a hack, right? People can
No, but they say that it's like kind of a proxy.
Yeah, sure. I mean, but they're we'll get to it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess what they find, to sum up the results, they find that in total, approximately 100,000 worth of Bitcoin, $100,000 worth of Bitcoin has been loaded into brain wallets.
And this was at the time of writing, which is what, 2016?
2017, I think.
17. So, okay. So yeah, I guess
I don't
maybe
know
now it's less.
I don't know if there's a date on this, actually.
I find it really annoying. It's always difficult to find dates on papers in the archive.
Yeah.
Why is that? I don't understand why that's not like in the title.
This is not even on the archive, right?
That's a separate beef. Yeah, you're right. It's not even on the archive. But it's never like a...
Maybe it's 2016 because there's a 16 in
That's why I said 16. But
yeah. I thought I could be wrong.
We would be assuming. I'm going to find out. I'll be like Joe Rogan's Googling guy.
Nice. Okay.
Just say, hey, Carlos, can you quickly Google that for me? Thanks.
Yeah, can you, Google that? The problem is, we can't also see your screen. We don't have a studio, so.
No, but the guy on Joe Rogan isn't showing his screen either. He's just like saying things,
No, doesn't he project it onto this like screen that they can look
sometimes,
at, that Joe Rogan can see?
Yeah.
He doesn't trust him, Like,
no, but sometimes he just fact checks Joe Rogan,
Okay.
And he's like, no, Joe, actually it's this. Oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into the section 2, which is just data collection methodology.
Hey,
so
sorry, by the way, it's 2016.
Okay, 2016. Sorry,
right.
my bad. So in 2016, the total amount of money ever available on these brain wallets was around $100,000.
Yeah.
I'm assuming US dollars. Okay, so section 2, data collection methodology. So the passwords they're using come from different sources, and here they list them. There are 14 plus 3, 17 different sources. So for example, they use the English word list package packaged with Ubuntu 12.04, just some English words. They use Urban Dictionary, 2 English words, English slang from Urban Dictionary. So there's a bunch of different words they can use, or different types of passwords they use. And then they also use these other ones, right? So they try, like, for example, brute force all numbers up to 9 digits. Okay, printable and ASCII.
Did you see the XKCD one?
Yeah, there's also an XKCD one, yeah.
It's a list of, so XKCD is a comic, right? Combinations up to 3 words with and without spaces. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that comes from an XKCD comic, which I linked. Have you seen that comic?
I didn't look at it, no.
Let's bring it up, Harry. Let's bring up the comic.
So
it's in the chat. Just look at the chat. I thought it was interesting, like, just in terms of password security, they give like a cool little analysis. Do you see it on the chat?
I have to open the chat somehow, which I think I have to unshare my screen to open the chat.
No, just maybe hit escape. You're probably in full screen mode.
No, I think I'm just in screen sharing mode.
Oh, okay. Let me just email it to you then. This is so unprofessional.
Seriously.
Email stuff to you. If only you had a desktop chatting app.
You can send it.
I sent it to you. Anyway, I think XKCD does like a little analysis of, what's the typical password that people choose versus what's an actually secure one. And they say, like, this one's this many bits of entropy. This one's this many bits of entropy.
Oh, yes, I've seen this comic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually, I think I can more chat. Interesting. Right here.
You got it?
Yeah, it's okay. It's not a link. Okay, I have to copy paste it.
Yeah, it's a
Nope.
link. Oh,
Really?
xkcd.com/936. What I found weird though,
Yeah. So yeah, I remember this comic.
what
This comic came out during my undergrad, actually.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
2016. Eh?
So um, yeah. So the point I think here is like people try to do these weird things where they substitute a letter for a number and then capitalize some stuff,
Like
right?
small variations on a short word.
On a very common word that you can find
Yeah.
in the dictionary.
Yeah.
But that has very low entropy, right? So it's easy to guess, but almost impossible to remember even.
Yeah.
Compared to just taking 4 random words, putting them in random order, like correct, horse, battery, and staple, which maybe you can remember, but it's almost impossible to guess because the entropy is so much larger.
My question here though is if you're attacking this using a dictionary of words instead of like the alphabet, then you have like basically the number of words in your password to the sorry. Yeah, so like I don't know how many words there are, like 10,000 words. And if you pick 4, so it's 10,000 to the power of 4 possible combinations. Is that how they measure it, or do they measure it like letter wise? Like, oh, this way you just get a much longer password.
No. I think the point is here on the second case.
Yeah.
Each so it's you know, I don't know how many words there are in the English dictionary.
It's like 10,000.
So is it 10,000 choose 4? Is the number of combinations you can get?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other one, it's like.
Well, no, 10 to the 4, 10,000 to the 4, because you have all permutations. And you can repeat words, right?
Okay, yeah. So sure. If you can repeat words, then yes, maybe it's 10,000 to the 4.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Let's say 10,000 to the 4. Compared to here, it's 26 to the 10 or something.
Yeah. So is that better? Like, I mean, I feel like you're just changing the base in the exponent, not the exponent, right? Unless they're attacking it like letter by letter, in which case I understand.
Actually, okay, I think they are attacking letter by letter because here they have on the you see it has 44 bits of entropy.
Yeah.
But
which is weird. A bit silly, right?
Yes, because actually in the first case they count a bit, for example, as I think they're assuming a certain order.
Okay. They have
like some weird word and then a suffix that's like.
Yeah. So you put a prior on the passwords in the first case, but not in the second case.
Sure.
It's a little bit misleading there, XKCD.
But it is a bit misleading. But actually, I think it's still crazy how much better the second one is, right?
So yeah. So basically, 10,000 to the 4 versus 26 to the 10.
I don't know what the comparison is there though. Maybe that's
really quick. 10,000 to the 4 is 1 to the 10 to the 16.
Okay.
And 26 to the 10 is, oh my God, it didn't give it to me in scientific. That's a huge number.
That does sound bigger, actually.
26 to the 10 should be bigger, right?
Well, let's just, it's like 10, it's almost like 10 to the 10, actually. Right?
Yeah.
10 to the 10 is 10 to the 16.
And the other one was?
10 to the 16.
Yeah. Okay, so the horse is still better. But I mean, it's not a... I just found it weird that it wasn't in the exponent that you get the gain.
Yeah, so maybe this comic is misleading, but I guess the point is in the paper, they're using...
yeah.
What's funny about this is they're just assuming people that use Bitcoin are like total geeks, that read XKCD and that would have used, brain wallets like this.
I mean, to be honest, that's what before I used LastPass, I was doing this for my passwords,
Yeah. So, I mean, it's funny that they're like the places they take the passwords from.
But imagine just 3 words. You just have to pick a combination of 3 words in the English language. You're screwed, right? But I think maybe as soon as you put in like an underscore somewhere or a exclamation point, like it's over.
Yeah, but I guess the point of XKCD is they're saying that it's difficult to remember that, right? If you put an underscore between. Yeah,
maybe.
Like you see, like the last guy is what is trombone? Was it trombone? No, troubadour, and one of the zeros was a 0.
This is how my mom makes passwords. It's ridiculous.
Anyways, it's just funny that they chose this as a source of passwords because geeks would probably look at.
And they
this.
got some hits on that, eh?
Yeah, they did actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
So, okay, so table 1 now is going to show us in section 3. Where's the table now? Yeah, so these are the hits that they got. Right, so
Urban Dictionary.
from Urban Dictionary, they got 296 hits.
I wonder if they took the raw word or if they did like that XKCD thing where you like uppercase, lowercase, zeros, O's thing.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure.
Pretty interesting.
But
maybe they could get way more hits if they did that, you know?
Yeah, probably. I mean, they have to get more than or equal to.
Yeah, but maybe they already did it. Who knows?
Yeah, but the point is, okay, they found 884 total wallets that were brain wallets using these 300 billion passwords. So all these sources lead to 300 billion total passwords.
So it's not. I don't think they did any variations. 300 billion doesn't sound like a lot. If you actually try to permute things around.
Probably not.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool, so they find 300 billion total passwords. Out of those 300 billion, 884 were actually used. The most common was from this crack station, which I'm not sure what that is, but I guess it's just a list of passwords.
I think they were using some like forums for hackers that like generate these lists of possible passwords. I
thought crack station, I mean, they explain what it is, but
there's just like a bullet list of all of them. It was pretty interesting. I didn't know there were all these. Oh, there is crack station. Also, the highest figure. Oh no, that's saying that they got hits on that.
No, this popular source is the security word list, crack station. Okay.
Yeah, so it's probably designed for hackers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's some list of words, you know, and that's the most common source. And then over here they have the amount of money stored in these different wallets. So the most money, I guess, was this one. These phrases. Although I didn't understand this 90%, 90th percentile of number of drains.
Perry, are you on headphones right now?
I am on headphones.
Okay. Just checking. Yeah. Blockchain info tags. What's that?
Where are you looking? Oh, here?
All public Bitcoin address tags obtained from HTTPS info /tags. I'm curious what a blockchain tag is now.
Maybe a hashtag? I don't know. They explain it. They should explain it here, right?
A Bitcoin address tag. Maybe it's like a pseudonym for a Bitcoin address.
But I mean, did you go on HTTPS like blockchain.info/tags? Is it not a list? Is it not a list of words?
Oh, they changed. Blockchain.info doesn't exist anymore.
Really? Oh, blockchain.com exists now though. Let's see.
Just Google Bitcoin address tag. Oh, what are address tags? Address tags enable you to label your public Bitcoin address with a short name. Yeah, it's just a nickname for an address. Okay, I see. So maybe some people decided to like use their public key tag as their secret key. Would be weird.
Yeah, I don't know. But excuse me. I guess the point is it's just geeky things to do, right?
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of geeky things, I remember that I made a vanity address for my brother.
Oh yes, but that's different though, right?
That is different
because I think his name was somewhere in the address.
In the public key, yeah.
Yeah, but you still can't go back.
No, you can't. That's it.
You still can't go backwards. Yeah.
So vanity addresses, I should say for the listeners, are basically doing this where you try a bunch of secret keys, and until one of them gives you a public key that has certain characters in it that you want. So there's like tools that do this, which is cool. So if you want like obviously the more characters you want in the public key, the more characters you specify in the public key, the harder it becomes to generate one that's going to hit.
It's like mining, right? The more zeros you want.
Yeah, it's exactly mining.
Yeah.
I remember I wrote a little script for that. It was very fun. I managed to get my brother's like nickname BONI on the first
4 characters, but I think the O was a 0 or something.
Yeah. I had a little regular expression because it was gonna like I had some flexibility because if you really just there's no O in a Bitcoin address, right?
There's a 0 though. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. Anyway, but that's fine because the secret key has nothing to do with a real English word or anything. It's just a random string that happens to output the public key that you want.
Right.
Okay. Cool. Let's go.
Yeah.
So these are the results, right?
Yeah, sorry. So the results they're summarized in this table.
Mm-hmm.
Although I didn't understand this column here. I don't know if you got it.
90% of drains.
Yeah, they talk about it's the 90th percentile of how they. Yeah, here. One way to estimate the popularity of password sources among the attackers is to compare how often repeated drains occur. The fifth column shows the 90th percentile for number of drains observed on passwords identified by each source.
I don't know. That sounds like a lot of words.
Yeah, I didn't get what this was basically.
It's probably just trying to like measure how prevalent each one of the sources is for drains, you know?
Sure, but I don't know how they quantified
way.
that. I don't know how they quantified it.
Yeah. Oh, we should also say who the authors are, eh? We never said it.
We always forget, yeah.
I know. God, that's so rude.
So it's Marie Vasek and Tyler Moore from the Tandy School of Computer Science, University of Tulsa.
Arizona.
We got Joseph Bono from Applied Crypto Group, Stanford University.
Man.
Ryan Castellucci from White Ops. And Cameron Keith from the Computer Science and Engineering Department, Southern Methodist University, SMU.
Wow. That school is probably like 10 times bigger than McGill, and I've never heard of it.
Which one? SMU?
I don't know, Southern Methodist University, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It's crazy, the US, how much money they have. Okay.
Yeah.
So
where were we? Okay, yeah. So again, they try to quantify how prevalent, I guess, each word list was with this 90th percentile thing, but I have no idea how that works. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's like how many attacks. Like if this is a 2, that means that 90% of the money was drained after 2 attacks.
Oh, okay. After 2 attacks.
Yeah. So like, let's say two people used English words from Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I think that's what this one is. And after 2 times, the 2 first attacks drained 90% of the money that was ever stored in those types of passwords.
Okay, sure. So it's trying to get like the distribution of money in the passwords.
Yeah. So maybe like a lot of the money was you picked from there a lot of the money was stored in these passwords in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, like people stopped using them because they figured out that they shouldn't make knowledge from that. But when it's like 12, maybe people use wiki quotes a lot before people realize they shouldn't use wiki quotes as passwords.
So how do they distinguish between people realizing that they wanted to use a safer secret key versus someone getting hacked?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know what the logic they use, which maybe I can find.
I think they just said if it happens really fast, it's probably because they got hacked, right?
Well, yeah. So here,
you know what they could have done? They could have like spent $100 and like created a bunch of these brain wallets and seen how fast they got hacked.
Yeah. So logically, they could have done that. Yeah. But
maybe
the
we
logic
should do
they
that
use
for another paper
is that. So here, I think it's given here. Many users select brain wallets with the intention of keeping their Bitcoin there for a long time, analogous to hiding cash under a mattress. Therefore, when Bitcoins are drained from the address, i.e. the account balance falls to 0, it strongly suggests that an attack may have taken place. So they're just saying if you're using a brain wallet, that means you want to keep your money for a long time. If it gets drained, that means you got hacked.
Right. So why would you use a brain wallet if you're going to keep your money for a long time? Because you're worried that you're going to lose your password somehow in 10 years.
But I mean, this is just a statement. Like, there's no proof of this. It's just they're just saying that.
Yeah.
Which I guess, okay, maybe it's a good assumption. I'm not sure, but I don't know. People could just be fooling around with stuff,
Mm-hmm. They really should have just done that experiment, though.
Like spend $100, or like maybe $10,000,
Mm-hmm.
Take 1,000 passwords distributed among these things in funded wallets. Yeah, because they even talk about how people love draining wallets. They think they're hackers, so they boast about it.
Yeah,
they corroborate the evidence by going on forums and checking
exactly
who's bragging about hacking them.
But they don't make that much money, eh? I think they checked like the
Well,
average.
$100,000 has been stolen, right?
Yeah, but over everyone that's doing this.
Still, that's a significant. I don't know.
They I think they mentioned like how much an average drainer was getting.
Yeah, maybe. I
Not
think
so
they
much.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the average could be skewed by one person that drained a lot, right?
Yeah, that's true. But they have
Anyways,
these figures, right? These CDFs. Like it was like that, right? Like there were just some really big wallets that accounted for most of the draining.
also it could be that when they got drained, the Bitcoin wasn't worth as much.
Yeah, but I guess you don't care, right? As long, like you just measure the draining in units of Bitcoin.
No, I know, but there's $100,000. I said
Yeah.
it's
Oh, sure.
$100,000 as the time of writing. Like it could be that people like were fooling around with like 100 Bitcoin when it was worth 1 cent.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got stolen, but they didn't care.
Yeah.
Or they just fooled around, sent it to a brain wallet, took it back, or yeah. Anyways, here they have a plot also of the number of brain wallets is a function of time if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know what this is supposed to tell us, but
I think they wanted to show that people are like getting away from brain wallets or something, but it doesn't seem super clear.
Yeah, because there's two factors, right? Bitcoin gets more popular,
Mm-hmm.
and then so you expect more brain wallets just because a certain fraction of people are going to use them.
I mean, they could have normalized by I don't know, the number of transactions on average or something like that. Number of new transactions, new addresses.
Yeah, maybe.
Also, did you get this like uncompressed versus compressed thing?
Yes. So we can go back to this if you want. I can explain that to you. So if we go to the way the public and private keys are generated in Bitcoin is with something called public key cryptography with elliptic curves. So a public key is just a point on a curve. If you look at this, it's pretty small. Maybe I can zoom in on this.
Yeah, you want to just hit the margins on the left and right. Okay, sure.
So if you want a public key in Bitcoin or for elliptic curves, is just a point along this curve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's two ways I can encode that. I can give you an x coordinate and a y coordinate, right? So if I tell you x equals 1 and y equals 1, maybe it's this point here. Or on a different public key would be, let's say x equals 1, y equals -1 down here. Or what I could just do is tell you x equals 1 and then use one extra bit to tell you above the x-axis or below the x-axis.
Because it's symmetric?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So in not recently, but a couple of years ago, Bitcoin went from this uncompressed version where it took, I don't know, 64 bits, I think, or 68 bits maybe to represent a public key, to going to half that plus 1, right? So you take just the x coordinate plus one extra bit to tell you above the curve or below the curve, or above the x-axis or below the x-axis.
Yeah.
And
you
this
also
was
the curve to derive the public key, right? Like
no, that is the public key.
But isn't the private key like a point on the curve, and then you apply some operation to hit another point on the curve that gives you your secret key? And it's just like very hard to invert that, right?
The secret key is the starting point. So you pick a private key. It's just a random number.
Yeah, I know. It's on the curve though, right?
No, it's just a random integer if you want.
Yeah.
So it's a random integer that you pick. And then there's a point on this curve called the generator point. And you do your random integer times that point, or that generating point to the power of your private key. And that gives you a point on this curve.
Okay.
So you can go one way, you can compute exponents very quickly, but doing the log of that operation, which would give you the private key, is very difficult. So that's why this is called the discrete log problem, which is very difficult to solve unless you have a quantum computer. And that's why this section is called quantum computer.
But I thought the point of using the elliptic curves was that it had these properties of like non-invertibility in the way the function is defined. And like you kind of jump around on this curve to generate some irreversibility. I guess I could.
Yes. So the point is your private key is an integer k.
Yeah.
The generating point is this point b. It's element of some group. And the point is your public key is this A.
Mm-hmm.
So computing B to the power of K is easy if you know K, your private key.
Mm-hmm.
But computing K from A and B is exponential in classical computation resources.
Okay.
But for quantum computers, it's very efficient. Or
Yeah.
very efficient. It's polynomial.
I see.
So this is called a discrete log problem because taking the log is difficult in these groups.
In the size of the representation.
Yeah, in the size of the field over which this curve is defined.
Yeah.
So this curve is defined over some field, a finite field.
Mm-hmm.
And the field, okay, this is getting maybe technical, but a field is just a set of numbers or a set of elements that have certain operations defined across, within that set. Yes, and so for traditional public keys, you use some huge prime. So it's some huge number. It's exponential in some huge number.
Mm-hmm.
That tells you how many. It tells you the resolution of this curve, basically.
Yeah.
So before some date, this uncompressed version where you had to give the x coordinate and y coordinate was used for Bitcoin, and after some date, the compressed version was allowed through a soft fork, I believe, so that you can use either encoding.
Mm-hmm.
Either you put the x coordinate with a plus and minus that tells you above or below the x-axis, or you give the x and y coordinates.
Yeah. I'm going to send you a thing I read about the elliptic curve cryptography because I think it might not be the same as what RSA is doing.
RSA is different in that RSA wants you to factor some huge number, right? Instead of using elliptic curves.
The discrete log.
They both involve discrete logs.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're related, but it's just that the implementation is different.
Mm-hmm.
One is an operation along a curve. If you want I can tell you what the operation is too. I don't know if that's what you're thinking of, maybe.
No, it's fine. I need to look something up quickly. Okay. No, that makes sense though.
Where are we?
Where am I?
Oh, sorry.
Where
were we on the? Yeah. So then, so let's go back to the paper now. Back to the results. Yeah. So they now want to look at how secure a brain wallet is in terms of how much money it had inside.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So with this curve on the left here, they show the cumulative density function.
Okay, I got it, Perry. Sorry. On the elliptic curves,
yeah.
I think it's that you can define an operation on the elliptic curve that's like exponentiation, but it's not exactly like the way it operates in real numbers.
Yeah, that's exactly what I have here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
it's this guy here.
It's like you kind of like do a projection on the curve.
Yeah, it's just this thing is something different, right? It's
that's what I was thinking of. Sure.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Let's go back.
Yeah, so here you find, back to the paper, so the probability that a wallet has been drained after a certain number of hours, or the total number of wallets have been drained. So, sorry. So on the y-axis, we have the probability, the percentage of wallets that have been drained.
Mm-hmm.
On the x-axis, we have the time that has passed since they were funded.
Can we do a quick zoom on that, Barry? Just a little. Just get the borders of the figures on the.
Well, I'm gonna have to click, Carlos. So I know you don't like my clicking, but I have to click.
Oh my God! Everybody, block your ears. I mean, I was gonna say just like, not necessarily like just on that figure, but margins of the text maybe.
Anyway. I was zoomed to an amount you said was perfect before.
Well, for reading the text, but when you want to get into a figure, you want to, Okay, so yeah, we have the percentage of wallets that have been drained on the Y. Yes,
the number of times since they were funded. And the black line is...
Okay.
Sorry?
Wait, no. What's the X?
The number, the amount of time that the wallet was drained with respect to the time it was funded.
Right, yeah.
So the time in which there was money in the wallet, basically.
Yeah. So after 5 hours, you drained 60% of the wallets, more than 60%.
So I think the way to read this is 60% of the wallets are drained within 5 hours.
Yeah.
60% of the brain wallets are drained within 5 hours, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And almost all of them, 100%, are drained within one day. Okay, that's fine. But they then make this point about how they compare wallets that have less than 10 cents.
Wait up, though. Question. So
Yes.
this is of the wallets that were drained, right?
Of the wallets that had those 300 billion that were generated from.
Maybe they found some that haven't been drained, right? So then they wouldn't have an hours to drain value for those ones.
I think they found that all the wallets that they looked at
Had been drained?
all those 884 wallets.
Oh.
So, I mean, obviously they would drain them, I guess.
Would they? I mean, I was thinking, no, they wouldn't. They kind of said like,
no, but I mean, I think the point is if they could do this, it's probably very easy to do, right? There are probably more sophisticated methods for guessing passwords. They're using very simple things, but they found 884 wallets.
Mm-hmm.
My understanding was out of these 884 wallets were all drained within one day.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
So then everything is a lower bound here.
Yeah, so I think people, hacker or whatever, like there are more sophisticated methods for guessing passwords than the ones they used. Yeah, so the point is they make this point, which, I don't know how relevant this point is, but they make the point that for the wallets that have over $100 in them, after 5 hours, more of them have been drained.
Sure, cool.
And then for the ones that are not well funded, I guess less have been drained. But in the end, all of them are drained within a day.
But that's like, why would that, like, would the people trying to drain be targeting those wallets? They have no control over that, right? Like, you can't say, oh, this wallet has a lot of money in it, so I'm going to try to drain it. Can you? I mean, you'd just be always checking against all possible wallets, no?
That's a good question. They talk about. Let me unzoom here.
Like maybe that's an artifact of, wallets with more money in them probably get split up faster or something like that, Like I don't see why it would, having more money in the wallet, make it faster.
Actually, maybe I was wrong. So they say 98% of the brain wallets have been drained at least once.
Okay, so they found some undrained ones.
We observed 1,895 distinct draining events on 884 wallets. 69% of the wallets were drained exactly once, while 19% were drained twice, and 1.9 drained more than 10 times. So people are just
the drainers didn't fully drain?
I think maybe the people funded the wallet again.
Okay, got it. So that's extra dumb, right? Because you
well, is it extra dumb, or is it people just messing around and like funding their wallet, taking the money out themselves?
Yeah.
And now it's being counted as a draining event.
Yeah, I mean, it's so few people that it might just be people playing.
Yeah.
Right, but okay, so back to the thing about the balance in the wallet having correlation with the drain speed. I'm not sure how that would work.
This is a good question. So actually, okay, maybe we should go to where they talk about this figure. Okay, so they say, here they say how within 24 hours, the wallets have been drained. Okay, so they even say, while some of these drains are initiated by the brain wallet owners, it is likely that most are not. Okay.
Again,
not very quantitative, but
yeah.
Okay. So they talk about these $100 wallets.
Mm-hmm.
These are drained faster. Okay, that's the statement. And then from this, we conclude that the time to drain is influenced by the stored value, but that that in any case, the wallet will almost certainly be drained within 1 day of funding.
That's all they say again. Eh?
That's all they say, yeah.
So wait, how do the drains occur so fast? Many bots monitor for new, I mean, maybe that's what it is. They have bots monitoring for new transactions depositing into known brain wallets.
But like you said, you don't know what the private key is beforehand, right?
No.
So a new transaction happens. Maybe the point is you have a list, right? Every time a new transaction occurs, you compare it to your list.
Yeah.
And then more people fight for the, like, you prioritize the ones that have more money in them to check first against your list.
Yeah. So if the list is big enough, I guess then that would impact how fast you hack it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe you
Yeah, you
classify your
sort of.
transaction. Yeah,
Yeah.
you sort them in terms of how much money each transaction has in it,
Yeah.
and then you check it against your list in that order.
Hmm. I wonder, like, what's the electricity cost here? Like, what's the return on investment here? You know?
Well, 300 billion is probably not a lot, right?
No. And there's probably not that many addresses on Bitcoin either. I mean, yeah. So I guess, yeah, you're right. It's probably just that they're competing for the largest wallets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. That's interesting.
They also say that they find no correlation between the password strength and the amount of money stored.
Right.
So people that are storing a lot of money don't really are taking as many precautions as people storing a little amount of money
Mm-hmm.
in terms of brain wallets.
Yeah.
Okay, and then they have some statistics on the drainers themselves.
The ones that post on Reddit or something like that?
Yeah, basically they can corroborate the evidence.
Right.
Yeah, so for example, one drainer stole from 78, so I'm quoting now, 78 different wallets, brain wallets, but netted only $62 worth of Bitcoin.
Yeah. Top drainer says earned $3,000 for 100 drains.
The top 4 drainers have netted an equivalent of $35,000.
Yeah.
Between them.
And the top one earned 3,000 of that.
How is that possible?
It says the drainer who has emptied the most brain wallets, 100.
Oh, no, yeah.
Oh, the most wallets, but
Yeah,
not the fattest ones.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they give some statistics on the drainers.
You think it's illegal to drain?
No, maybe, but I wouldn't say it's illegal.
This is another moral, dilemma.
Well, are we talking moral or are we talking legal? Like,
well, I guess legal. I mean, currently legal, obviously not. But if there were to be some kind of legislation over this, I guess it's impossible to prove that it wasn't you that made that transaction,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
I mean, obviously, the power that Bitcoin has is also associated to like some of the things people find annoying with decentralized systems, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You have to, if you're going to use a decentralized system, you have to be willing to manage your own security.
Well, I mean, what happens if you find cash on the floor? If I find $100
Yeah.
cash, is it yours, or is it like is there some procedure that you have to go through?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right? Because I mean, I guess it's kind of equivalent.
It's like who?
If I just have a monkey typing on my keyboard, at some point the monkey's going to sign, for a wallet. And am I doing something illegal? My cat steps on my keyboard, all of a sudden I get $1 million. You know what I'm saying?
You should return it maybe to the addresses. I'm not sure. Yeah.
This is some philosophy right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's a thing people have never thought of, right? It's a new paradigm, decentralization.
Absolutely. I mean, it is and it isn't, right? Because it's just like in every way you can just map it back to cash. Like no one has there's no identity associated to cash, so it just has to become like these moral heuristics that you have to put on top.
I guess.
Although for cash, you can know that it wasn't yours, right? I mean, if you're walking down the street, you see $100 on the sidewalk. At that moment, you know that you didn't create that.
Maybe you dropped it before.
Yeah. Or I guess, I mean, even for the Bitcoin, right? You can know which one is actually yours by like morally yours.
I don't know. My answer to this is I don't know.
Blockchain ethicism.
Yeah.
Blockchain ethics. For sure, it's a huge thing, and maybe we can do an episode on that.
Sure. I don't know if we're qualified to talk about that, but maybe.
Absolutely not. I mean, we did do arts and science in CEGEP, so we do have some humanities in us.
That's true. That's true. Okay, so let's just finish this up. So we're almost at the end.
Oh wait, I wanted to see that it says we use the Wheeler-ZCBVN formula as a rough measure of password strength. Okay, so they have some way of establishing how strong.
Yeah. So the point is here that they find no correlation between so they find no correlation between the password strength and the funds to drain and the funds in the wallet.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they measure that is with this Wheeler ZXCVBN formula.
Okay.
So they have some measure for that. But they do find a correlation, like we said before, between the amount of money in each wallet and the time it takes to drain.
Yeah.
And then one interesting point they make is that, as GPUs, so now Bitcoin can be mined with GPUs.
Cannot.
Cannot. People are using ASICs.
Yeah.
So maybe the people that invested in these GPUs are just using them to hack these brain wallets, right?
Mm-hmm.
So GPUs can do repetitive operations much quicker than CPUs, say. People have invested in GPUs, so maybe they're just using those now to just hack these brain wallets.
Mm-hmm.
So old miners are being used to try to crack these brain wallets.
Crazy.
Yeah, so that's basically the end of the paper. So it's different than the other paper we've talked about, I think.
It was a good paper, though. I found it was interesting to read.
Yeah, so
it was well written.
Yeah, so in the end, I think the main point is you don't use a brain wallet.
Yeah.
You might think,
but if you are, actually, no, never use one. Sorry, don't take my advice here.
I mean, I guess you could. The most secure thing you could do is obviously use a random number.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much entropy that no one can guess your random number.
And that's what these wallet generators are doing. I remember I made my first paper wallets by moving my mouse around the screen randomly.
Sure. Yeah, you have to generate some entropy and use that to create your wallet. And that maybe even okay, so I guess the most secure thing you could do is encrypt your random number with a password that you remember.
Yeah, which is what Trezor has an option for.
Yeah. So that's probably the most secure thing you could do. But if you're going to do one of those two things, you should not just use a password or
yeah.
If you should not, you should use a random number basically if you have to pick one of the two.
It would have been interesting to have some kind of continuous measure. I really wish they did this experiment where they actually put out some wallets that people would just hack and see maybe you need 4 words instead of 3 in order for your password to not be hackable anymore.
But isn't it always hackable? Oh, you're saying there's a threshold probably where the hacker's not trying anymore.
Yeah, that's it. And it might still be within your capacity to remember it.
I see. Yeah, that could be an interesting experiment. But I guess let's look at this list of words, right?
I mean, it has to be, I'm sure it has been done by other papers that try to study password security.
Yeah, so that's
you have to remember passwords at some point, right? So there must be some literature on, okay, this is what you can remember. Given that you can remember a certain amount, this is what you should go for.
Yeah, so this is one thing about this. I don't know if this study could have easily been done on anything besides anything other than Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, I guess it's the Bitcoin has the financial directly, and you can also directly check.
Yeah, so I think the advantage Bitcoin has is that the ledger is public, so everyone can the data is freely available. But I don't know how useful this is as a password security type of study.
No, because they only have, they don't have any non-empirical data, they only know what actually happened, what has been seen before. Sorry. They can't know about the passwords that haven't been cracked, right? So we have no idea if there's brain wallets out there that are actually secure.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is I think there are studies probably been, maybe I shouldn't say this, but
no, for sure.
There have probably been studies done where people have measured password security much better than has been done here. I think this is just summarizing empirically. So it's just summarizing what's been done on the blockchain, basically, on Bitcoin.
Yeah, but it's still an interesting point because there's also a risk associated with having somehow storing this large random number that you're never going to remember, right? Someone can find it, someone can get access to it.
Yeah, so I think what they've shown in the end is that for all the brain wallets generated from these lists of words that they have in this in section 2, you're probably going to get drained in 24 hours.
Given that these are all the wallets that have been drained, it's kind of a chicken and egg situation.
No, I think the point is if you use a wallet generated from one of these lists of words.
Oh yeah, sure.
You will get drained most likely within 24 hours of putting your money in there.
Yes, agreed.
And they've also shown that the more money you put, the faster you'll get drained. Probably.
Sure.
So I think they've shown those two things. What they haven't shown though is that brain wallets are not useful. They have
I mean,
not
it's
shown that
just
brain wallets.
you have to define a brain wallet at some point, and like
Well, that's not true, right?
if you can remember like 256 bits,
Oh,
then
okay, yeah, sure.
that's still a brain wallet.
No, but I guess brain wallet, I guess, is English. Like a language.
Yeah, but I mean, replace a bit with a letter in the alphabet or a word in the alphabet, and then you have like it's just it's the same space that you're working with.
You're saying eventually you'll have enough words that there is in the random in 64 bits or something.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
impossible to hack a 10-word brain wallet, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, maybe you can remember 10 words. It's not that crazy, and then you also don't have to store your wallet physically.
But 10 words cannot be better than just remembering 10 numbers, right? 10 digits.
Well, yeah, because we saw that the base is larger.
Okay, no, you're right. Okay, but yeah, okay, 10 words might be equivalent to remembering 20 digits.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
something, right? Yeah. So yeah, it's for sure a threshold where it just becomes a random number.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And I guess it's either, okay, you remember this like probably long list of words. It's probably the most easy to remember versus hard to hack ratio you can get. Or you have a random wallet, a random key, a random secret key encrypted with a passphrase, right?
I think the most secure thing you could do is that, right?
Yeah. Although if you assume that there's no security to having the physical, if there's no security to the physical wallet, like if someone finds your treasure,
Mm-hmm.
all they have to do is guess your passphrase, right? That you used to encrypt it.
Or
And
your
then
PIN,
at that
right?
point, how random your public key was doesn't matter. Your secret key was doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay, yeah, for sure. But I'm saying, let's say, yes, you're right.
So,
but given that you can, no, one second, nothing, then in that limit, nothing is safe, right?
I mean, the only thing that's safe is remembering something huge because it's offline. So,
So that's the initial motivation for Brain Wallet. I guess the point, which is maybe what you're saying, is that motivation is still valid, or that motivation is still, the goal is still useful. The goal, if we attain the goal, it'd be useful. But the point is, people are using this suboptimally, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So the idea is still a good idea, maybe, but what they've shown is that the way people are using it so far is not the correct way to use this.
Yeah, but I think the paper kind of presents it as brain wallets are dangerous and not brain wallets derived from this list of possible sources are dangerous.
That's true.
So
yeah, so your point is basically a brain wallet is also maybe remembering your private key.
Yeah.
Right? This random number that you generate. That's also a brain wallet. And if I could do that, that would be a great brain wallet because I wouldn't have to write it down anywhere and no one could rob me of my brain wallet.
Yep.
And that's a good brain wallet. That's the best brain wallet. That's the best wallet that you can ever have, right?
Correct.
Just remembering this long random number.
Yes. I mean, I guess if you could remember any point in a 256-bit space at random, then you're good, right? That's the best you can possibly get.
Yeah. Never have to write it down.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously no one can do that, but I mean, it'd be interesting to see like how, smooth is that curve. Maybe, I can, or how not smooth. Like maybe I don't need to remember more than 5 words for it to be strong enough.
Right. Yes, I think you're the only one up to 2 words.
Although I would imagine that there's already a trade-off in terms of like secret key security versus practicality, right? Like you could also make the secret keys much larger to get more security.
That's what you're saying, though, right? That's what you're suggesting.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, maybe the current system for secret keys
Okay.
is at the limit, you know? Like if we were to make secret keys shorter, for example, that would be
Yep.
that would already be a vulnerability. You know, instead of 256 bits, if it were 128, then that's no good anymore. You know?
But that's half, though.
Yeah,
That's half the number of bits.
sure. But if we were to do that, I
Yeah.
wonder if 256 bits, if that's I mean, how many bits are secret keys in Bitcoin?
I'm not sure. I can look that up if you want.
And I guess it's in base 51, right? Something like that.
No, the address is only in base.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I mean, there's
256.
probably a middle ground. 256.
The private key space is 2 to the 256. Yeah.
Right.
So
So
256 bits.
if it were 255 bits, are we like, are these vulnerable to just an enumeration attack? You know?
For how
And
many?
what?
No. So the example they give here. This is I'm looking at the Bitcoin book right now.
Yeah.
By Andreas Antonopoulos.
Which you
So,
authored.
yes. So 2 to the 256 is 10 to the 77.
Yeah.
The number of atoms in the universe is 10 to the 80.
Correct.
So it's 1,000 times less than the number of atoms in the universe.
Yeah.
I don't think dividing that by 2 gives you like something crackable, right?
Okay. Right. So that means that
it's probably chosen so that you're at the limit of what's physically possible.
Correct.
Right. So 10 to the 80 is what's physically possible within the lifetime of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if imagine you had all the resources of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
The limit would be maybe 10 to the 80.
Correct. Yeah.
Now you're saying if I had 1,000 times less than that, that's what the entropy is in a Bitcoin secret key, basically.
Yeah.
If you chose it at random.
Wait, why 1,000 times less?
It's 10, so 2 to the 256 is 10 to the 77.
Yeah.
10 to the 80 is the number of atoms in the universe.
Oh, okay, sure. So the gap between like what's physically impossible and what's currently implemented.
Yeah. So there's exactly. So what's currently implemented is 1,000 times easier than if you had or 1,000 times less than if you had all the resources in the universe.
In the universe, right. So that means that like computers aren't having problems handling this size of key, right? So there's no like trade-off on that end, which is what I'm saying. So we just have to know like what the gap is between what people can remember and what the upper bound is for computers to handle, right? And if people can remember slightly more than what computers can handle for enumerating, then that's where you want to be, right?
No, but for sure people cannot remember a digit that's 10 to the 7, like 77
no,
number.
That's what I'm saying, but there's probably a gap between like the most keys a computer can enumerate and the actual entropy in the keys right now. Like there's some cushion there, right?
Yes.
If you can remember something in the cushion, then that's the best brain wallet.
Sure. But my question now is, why don't they just make it 2 to the, 10 to the 81?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some like speed and size constraints, right?
Yeah, maybe.
That would be the only thing. Otherwise, they'll just go for it. I don't know.
To make it literally impossible to ever be able to be hacked, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe it's already impossible at 256.
Yeah.
So it's probably also impossible at, 200. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So if people can remember something in the gap between what computers can reach and what's physically impossible, then that's where you want to put your brain wallet. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. If you were to pick one.
If you were to pick one, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if I remember, 30 words at random, can a computer like within a reasonable amount of time guess that? You know what I mean?
So yes. But at that point, are you going to risk remembering 30 words? No. In order, in sequence, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's probably going to be it's tens of words, right?
Yeah.
That you have to remember in sequence.
Correct.
Yeah, something to think about.
But the point is like, then what's the point of passwords? Like passwords that people remember. I mean, so much relies on passwords that people are already remembering, right?
I think we're going towards a system where we won't have passwords, right? We'll have something like LastPass, where all the passwords are stored locally, so the person will have to steal your device as well.
Right, and also, I guess like your Netflix password someone can't just brute force Netflix passwords because they'll just get blocked, right?
Yeah, but there's a central authority.
Yeah.
Here they make this point, right? You can do this offline.
Mm-hmm.
Just check things by yourself till you get the thing, and then steal the money.
Definitely.
But you're right, because the conclusion of this paper is, it seems as if they're trying to say that they show that we shouldn't use brain wallets.
Mm-hmm.
So they say the idea behind brain wallets is elegant and alluring. Remembering a password is surely easier than a private key. Unfortunately, as this paper makes clear, it is also an extremely insecure way to store Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've proven that, right? They've just
no, they haven't.
If you pick a stupid password, then it's insecure.
Although it could be that of the passwords that of their data set of passwords,
yep,
like making them more secure than that is hard for people to remember or something, like maybe 3xKCD words is the most secure that you can get without like having a high chance of forgetting it.
But I think the limit is 2, right? 2 words, right? English pair of words.
Yeah, I mean that's insanely insecure, right?
Like if I pick 10 words,
26 squared.
Like you said, if I pick
10
not
26, 10,000 squared. Yeah.
If I pick 20 words, right? Or
right, but
words.
maybe like no one can remember 10 words. I mean, I guess it's a little bit of a social thing, right?
But you can remember 4 words.
Yeah.
You can remember 4 words easily.
Right. So there's for sure other papers that have like looked at this, and probably like that metric that they use for password strength is published somewhere. Then, and that's exactly what they did. Yeah. And
like you said, 300 billion passwords sounds a lot, like on paper, but it's not, right?
Not at all.
It's very easy to a computer. I mean, computers can handle 10 to the 77.
Yeah.
Or whatever spaces.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a very small fraction of the total possible things that are available as secret keys.
Absolutely.
So I think that in conclusion, right? They've overstated what they've done. I think slightly. Yeah. I think it's still important that they've proven that if you pick a very stupid password, you're gone in a matter of a day, right?
True.
That is important. So don't pick like, your name or something, or something that you think would work on Netflix, say, where people have 3 chances to guess your password. That might be good for Netflix, but maybe not good for Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
But they haven't shown that brain wallets are bad. Yeah. Like you said, even brain wallets that are easy to remember, like 5 words or 3 words or 7 words or whatever.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that. Are we wrapping it up?
I think so. I think I learned a lot from this paper.
Let me stop the share.
Good discussions. Wait, no, don't stop the share. Oh, the share. Okay. We have to say goodbye properly.
I'm very sorry.
Bye.
Oh, goodbye.
Jeez.
Any thoughts for next week's paper?
I don't know, but I think today was a good discussion because it was I was worried that we wouldn't really have anything to talk about, but in the end we did.
We're just so interesting that
it was such a simple paper,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think we can try for next week that one that you found on just like real world applications of blockchain. I would love to know more about that.
Cool. I'll send it to you and we can decide, I guess. Well, as always, we'll post it on Facebook.
Yeah. So do we have a Facebook URL or something?
Yeah, I'll give it to you. We can put it.
Well, we should mention it. I mean, I'll put it on the Ozeki, facebook.com/Ozeki Labs. Yeah, it's that.
I think we're going to go for every Monday. We'll post the paper that we'll be reviewing on the Wednesday.
Yeah. So you can read ahead.
Yeah.
Do your homework. I don't read ahead for like real journal clubs usually.
You're reading it while you're speaking about it.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll post about that. We get emails on info@ozeki.io and tweets at Twitter. What's our Twitter handle? Ozeki Inc. @Ozeki Inc.
And you can always comment on the YouTube video.
Yeah, and I found who owns @Ozeki on Twitter. It's this guy named Ormond Zeki.
He deserves it, honestly.
I followed him and he followed me back.
He deserves it.
The real Ozeki follows us on Twitter. Yeah, he kind of does. I mean, I was hoping. I mean, I read about what you can do if someone has your Twitter name that you want, and you can. I think there's some strict rules on exchanging money for Twitter handles and stuff.
Nice.
I'm really desperate for that at Ozeki. It's so close. Also, it's someone from Montreal too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's insane. Is a software developer guy. Shout out at Ozeki.
Yeah.
Good job there. Created the account in 2007, so he really earned it.
Yeah.
I gotta bend the knee to that. Okay, so yeah, info@ozeki.io, emails. We'll post on YouTube and Facebook, Instagram. You know, we're all over the place now. Instagram is ozeki.io with a real dot. We gotta pick one structure for these usernames. All right, so next week we'll talk probably about blockchain applications. Any last comments, Barry?
No, but I think maybe we're getting close to the end of quarantine. Is that a thing next week?
I don't know.
May 5th, right?
Wait, so what's the status? What's the plan for that?
I thought
Business is open fully?
I think you're allowed to open your business.
Oh,
Isn't it like this money runs out for people that are off for?
I don't know. I mean,
I thought May 5th seemed like an important date.
really? I mean, schools aren't going back, right?
I think McGill extended it to June.
Yeah, so the university semester is not going to happen.
I even got an email saying if I want to take a course on giving courses online, because the next semester might be fully virtual as well.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know if I think for schools we're a bit off, but I think businesses can open starting May 5th.
I guess they'll have limits, no? Still?
Yeah, like I think restaurants have to have
2
like
meters.
this two-meter distance. Half the restaurant can only be full at a time.
I went to Marathon Souvlaki.
You went inside?
Yeah, I went inside.
You could sit down and eat there?
No.
Oh, okay,
No.
but I think May 5th they'll let you maybe.
Yeah. It was pretty good, their system. They have arrows on the floor.
Yeah.
You follow them to the girl at the cash with she has like a plastic window there. Nice. Very nice.
Cool. Very cool.
It's pretty convenient, honestly, everything. We got our souvlaki was ready in 10 minutes. It's ready in 10 minutes.
Beautiful.
Other times I've waited an hour for their souvlaki.
You couldn't get it delivered?
No, actually, because the Marathon Souvlaki near my house is closed for real.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. And then so I went to the one on DeCarry.
Okay, cool.
Very good souvlaki. Not as good as Nostos. Shout out Nostos. If you want to endorse, if you want to
sponsor
oh my God, us, we would do it for free.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
Well, for free. I mean, they'd have to send us some souvlaki.
At the very least, some garlic bread.
Yeah.
No, but I think Nostos Souvlaki is fully closed. Have you checked in on them?
I have not, but I
remember I tried a few weeks ago. Fully closed.
Fully closed.
They do not mess with deliveries. It's like Damas. Maybe they don't believe that the quality is going to translate well to pickup to delivery. Yeah. Maybe they're like snobs about it.
Yeah, maybe. But Damas is another level.
Damas didn't give me fries because they said, nah, you're not going to like them in delivery format. Yo, when our podcast gets a sponsor, we're going to have dinner at Damas. That's where we're going to blow our first sponsorship money.
Dinner where?
Dinner at Damas.
Oh no, I'm not going to Damas.
$30 shish taouk. It's so good.
I'm going to Nostos.
I mean, you go to Nostos to warm up, but when it's for time for the big boys, you go to Damas.
Yeah, bro, we're trying to get a sponsorship right now, and now you're bashing Nostos.
I love Nostos. It's a family place, but to each their own.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, I guess I'll see you next week.
Absolutely. I don't know. Should we mention the workshop? Maybe if someone's listening, probably different audiences. I don't know, but it's not getting much traction on Facebook.
Well, now you've brought it up, so maybe mention it.
I mean, I'll put a link on the description for the Eventbrite. You know, if anyone's listening and is curious about how to actually buy Bitcoin and store it securely, like, you know, this paper I think was a good example of. There's a lot of like things to think about if you want to own Bitcoin, not just the brain wallet thing, but there's other sort of risks / features, because that's just the way Bitcoin was constructed. It puts a lot of onus on you. So if we prepared a little workshop where we go through all the steps that it takes to do this whole process right, and
also it could help you understand some of the concepts we've talked about, because you'll have it like a practical it's a hands-on course, right? So you'll go through the steps yourself.
Yeah.
Help you hopefully make the connection between what we're talking about maybe in these podcasts and what's actually happening on the Bitcoin network.
Yeah. So if you want to make your own transactions, own your crypto, and make sure that you're not one of the how many brain wallets that got drained.
884.
884. What I found crazy is that I think in order to make a brain wallet, you need to actually know a little bit about Bitcoin, right?
No, there's sites that do it.
Like the easiest thing to do is go on Bitcoin Wallet Generator and it gives you a random password, a random secret key. It
But there
doesn't
are
say like, hey, do you want to put in like a secret key that you came up with?
but there are sites that give you that you put in a brain password and it puts a brain wallet, right?
Really?
Yeah, they mention them in the paper.
Wait. Oh, okay. I see. I mean, it just feels like it's easier to come by a secure wallet than a brain wallet. Like if you're new, but you're more likely to get a real wallet than a brain wallet. Like you have to go out of your way to get one, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is people getting drained or people just playing around with things.
Imagine
like,
no one got drained ever.
Yeah, it's just like people like messing around. I don't know.
That's why they need to do this experiment. I mean, we should email them and say, yo, spend some put some Bitcoin where your mouth is, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
Or we should do it and test their hypothesis.
Yeah, no, I don't want to blow 100 Bitcoins.
Well, even 10 cents gets drained, right?
Yeah, and the correlation between the amount and the draining wasn't that strong, right?
It's a time thing. It's not a if it will get drained, right?
No, I know, but like the
there was
amount
no
in the wallet didn't have a strong correlation, or no correlation.
There was no correlation between the password strength and the amount of money.
I mean, the amount of money versus the drain time was not super correlated. Like you will get the same amount of information by putting in 1 cent in each wallet.
I believe so, because after one day, everything is drained anyways.
Exactly. And all you kind of care about is whether or not it gets drained, right?
Yep. So we should do it. We put like $50 in 10 cent wallets.
Yeah.
We see what happens, you know?
Should we do it? I mean, actually, I'm down now.
Well, think about it. We'll keep you guys posted.
It'll make a fun tweet.
If we get 50 likes.
Yeah. 50 likes.
Everyone does this, you know.
Put in a whole Bitcoin if we get
50 likes. We put $50, you know.
$1 per like. How about that?
Seriously.
Let's just do that. Okay. Well, actually, no, because you want to get some statistical significance here.
Threshold is 50 likes.
30.
Okay, 30 likes. This will be like my mom. My
mom
and her friends will give us the 30 likes.
Very nice. Okay.
Sounds good.
Your mom will do it? Okay.
I don't know.
Mama Perry, let's go.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. See ya.
Ciao.